Couch of Thrones, yeah, Couch of Thrones.
Welcome.
That's such a callback to last night's episode. Long may he reign, long may he reign, long may he reign.
We'll get better at that.
Yeah, Queen of the North. Queen of the North.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about
There's
here.
a lot to talk about. So welcome to Couch of Thrones. This is a show where we talk about the current season of Game of Thrones through the lens of our fantasy league that we're all a part of. So you see today, all of the teams are represented here today. Hurrah.
Just like on our very first episode.
That's right. Yeah. And it's very exciting. And we're going to talk about the final episode ever. Guys, it's done. Oh, wee. How's everyone doing?
It's a genuine wowee.
They're all genuine wowies.
I'm slightly relieved.
Yeah. There's like a certain
Relieved.
amount of pressure off on the viewers as well as like Benioff and Weiss because it's done. Whatever, good or bad, it's over for them.
Because it felt very harrowing this season.
Yeah.
Like, because you have all this pressure of like them wrapping things up and seeing how they're going to wrap it up. But then also I felt like the conversation about the show got really extreme.
Yeah.
Which was also made like really kind of amped things up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also felt that specifically the Battle of Winterfell and then episode 5 were very stressful. Like actually watching them, I remember being like, oh my gosh, I'm like kind of, I need to calm down here. And luckily I was watching with friends so we could talk about it.
Debrief.
Yeah, it was really intense. I found it really intense.
Yeah, I broke into a sweat watching episode 5. I remember watching it happen and the fire raining down on King's Landing, just being like, oh my god, what's happening?
Yeah.
It's just so stressful.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So last night's episode was called The Iron Throne, so they've been releasing the titles after the episodes. Obviously, there's a ton of spoilers here.
Yeah.
I don't think I have to say that, but just in case. Have you not seen it yet, perhaps leave this broadcast immediately. So before we get into who triumphed in our league and how all that happened, because we will get to that, I thought last week we started with overall impressions. So let's, in like a word or two, let us know if you were satisfied with how things ended or not. That's all the instruction I'm going to give you. What did you think?
I'm satisfied with the destination. I did not totally love the route.
I like that. So maybe a few more than 2 words, but yes, great. Just like a summary of like what you thought of that of the ending.
I'm 65% satisfied.
65%.
if there's a
Okay.
If I had to put a number to it.
Okay, cool. Anybody else want to weigh in? You don't have to.
I think I'm also about 65, like between 60 and 70% satisfied.
Okay.
Like the things that I wanted to happen generally ended up happening.
Yeah.
I was moderately surprised at some things.
Yeah.
And it's over.
You got that part right.
Yeah. It ended.
Okay. Anybody else? David?
I'd like to give a number 2 as well, but it's higher than 65.
Okay.
It's like 75.
Okay.
But also, I'm glad it's over, which is not the way I felt even in other seasons of the show.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, I kind of gonna miss that, and now it's like I kind of need to get back to my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's things I'm not doing. There's literally things I'm not doing because of the show.
It's been kind of all-consuming.
Yeah, for sure.
So it'll be fun.
I mean, I'm pretty okay with most of what happened.
Yeah. Pretty okay.
I don't believe all the things.
Yeah, you're still struggling to believe it. That's fair.
I'm still processing. Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Bondo, did you have feelings?
Underwhelmed, but I'm all right. I can live with it.
Okay.
It's all right.
Yeah, I mean.
Welcome.
Where can you go? Where can you go? Like,
It's like beige tape.
you can't be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because it's like, listen, the show was an achievement.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
What we saw on screen was
100%. Yeah.
Could they've done it maybe in 20 episodes and maybe supported the stories a little bit and the characters and really give us a
20,
thorough arc?
yeah.
I don't know. I just threw that number out there. I
20
would
straight.
I wouldn't mind.
The last 2 seasons being
12 at least.
Yeah, 2 full seasons, like 7 and
Sure.
8 being 2 full, like actually 10 episodes each.
Yeah.
Could have been cool.
Marco Tintano says extreme more than words.
Thank you, Marco Tintano, for that amazing 80s reference.
And Daphne Simone says, Drogon wins all the things. He was apparently the wisest character in the entire series, but it did feel rushed. Years-long plot, just sort of tied up in instants.
Yeah, I think what most fans agree, from what I can tell, and I would put myself in this category, whether they loved it or they didn't, or they had issues or they didn't, everyone seems to agree that it felt very rushed. And that it's a little bit perplexing. I mean, I felt a bit perplexed by the choice to have, 6 episodes, some of which were longer than an hour, and then have this strange pacing that I felt didn't always work. So yeah, I felt a bit rushed, but I liked the season finale. I feel like, I don't know if anyone else had this, but this season, I felt like there were less emotionally overwhelming moments. Like, there were tense moments this season, but I got carried away less frequently by my feelings than I have in past seasons. And I think that has to do with, like, the speed at which they were, like, checking off the plot boxes.
I think it's also like beginning, middle, and end. Middle is about feelings. Beginning is about setting up plot, and end is about delivering the plot. And we got so used to 5 seasons of middle. And, at the end of season 1, we were getting, like, Ned's head chopped off and Viserys killed. Like, we were getting some great feelings moments, and the show really kept to deliver in feelings. And then at the end of 7, we were starting to see that it was about plot and movement and tying up, like the Loot Train episode was about action and getting point A, point B. And I think all of this season felt like plot threads and less about feelings.
With the exception of, like, episode 2, which was, like, just feelings. I felt like, and that was such a satisfying episode. The scene with Brienne and Jaime and the knighting and there were so many beautiful moments in that. So I think they gave us a little bit of it, but I wanted more. And again, I don't know how much of that is a function also of just I wanted more of it because I love the show and the characters, and it's sad to say goodbye to them and wrap stuff up.
That's where all that outrage on people saying, I mean, part of it is like don't go, give me more, and we're not getting more.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, where some of the anger's coming from, like, saying this isn't great, but what I think people mean is I didn't get all the things I wanted, and that's okay too, I guess.
Sure.
And Kirsty Cole is saying, I
Yeah.
think with a show that has such high expectations, there's no way to make everyone fully happy.
Totally.
But they could have done better. It felt rushed.
Yeah. That's
Is
fair.
I mean, you guys probably know the answer to this, and I'm just up to lunch on it.
That's okay.
Is there a reason why they definitively said we need to wrap this up now?
I think
Like, is just everybody too expensive?
They got some Star Wars to
They
make.
just want to move on to other stuff?
Yeah, I think the Star Wars thing probably had a lot to do with it, or at least future projects.
Yeah.
I think it's also, one thing I will say that I think doesn't get sort of honored enough in terms of the fandom is that love Benioff and Weiss or hate them for what they've done with the show in the past few seasons, because there's been a lot of backlash. But these guys, and yes, they've been paid handsomely and have gotten opportunities and all of that, but they also, like, the amount of work and sacrifice that goes into making a series for a decade, for them and all of the people on the show, is massive. And so I got the sense from interviews with them that they were like, we need to wrap this up, because we want to move on. And probably, like, there were many people in that family of Game of Thrones who were also feeling that.
I think Bran wants to go to university.
Bran needs
Can't
to go
take
to-
another season-long
That's
hiatus.
right. But I've never heard a definitive answer to that, to answer your question. But
Because it's such a good soap opera, you could just keep doing it.
oh my god, yeah, but you can never afford to.
I mean, they're making more money than they're spending.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, they're gonna ruin the earth with all of the fire VFX they have to do. The amount of propane alone is like the rising temperatures of the earth.
Daphne Simone can't, she thinks that the difference between George's storytelling and D&D storytelling is fairly significant, and she can't help but wonder what would have happened if he had already written an ending.
Listen,
Robin Barker's hoping for a movie. And Vanessa is saying, is agreeing with my points, and saying that that's why it's obvious that it should have been 2 full seasons. Season 8 ending when the Night King is killed, and then season 9 would have existed with the fight for King's Landing. Vanessa, I would have loved to see those switched, because to me, squabbling over a throne is not as important as, like, impending doom
Yeah.
coming down from the
Yeah,
north.
this was a
Whole
huge.
Game of
Yes.
Thrones.
Yes.
Yep.
This is a huge argument.
But he's a
within the
Night
fandom
King,
as well.
which implies there might be a throne up in the north.
The Night King was. Listen, we're not gonna. We've had this argument so hard on this.
Yeah, right?
I thought that might be.
But I do agree. I think that it's obvious it was rushed. What was the first thing Daphne was talking about, the George R. R. Martin thing? This has also been so contentious, right? People saying like, what if George had been able to finish the books? Would that have made the show better, or at least the pacing and the choices better? Sadly, we'll never know. I don't have a lot of faith that would have happened, because I don't think George R. R. Martin was that much superior in that way. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know enough about George R. R. Martin's writing style.
I think if George knew how to end the story, he would have by now. Like, all he has to do is this. Everybody else has to do like crazy amounts of work. He just does this, and he gets to the end like super fast if he wants. And he does not know what he's doing, and so he hasn't gotten to the ending. And when one day he maybe does get to the ending and somehow does a better job, I'll be like, oh wow, what do you know? He did a better job. But I don't think that is going to happen.
It could be better just because it won't be like so fast.
Yeah.
It'll be like,
Yeah, it could be more
Yeah.
satisfying.
There'll be a lot more
That's true.
content.
I think
Or
also
it
in
could
the
be way
books,
worse.
Yeah.
it could be. The books though seem to like fulfill more of the prophecy. Like George is more interested in the prophecies than D&D were. And I think that was especially hard for book lovers and for people who like the series because of the prophecy element and the magical elements, because D&D sort of abandoned most of those things in the last season and a half or so.
Well, Robin is saying prequel. So,
Yeah, I hope so.
if we're lucky, we'll get prequels that play with
Oh, I hope
those bits of mythology that are left so hanging.
Yeah, like we never found out who Azor Ahai was.
No.
No.
Were those
I guess
words
he's a
ever
historical
said on the
figure.
show?
They said the prince that
Prince that
was
was
promised.
promised.
Okay.
Or
So I guess
princess that was
Azor
promised.
Ahai basically turns out to be a prophecy that never comes true.
Yeah.
And so many prophecies are essentially bullshit in the show.
They are.
And I think it's an interesting commentary. The idea that you're waiting for messiahs and you're hoping for princes that are promised and all of these things that have been promised to you to happen, like a queen that's younger and more beautiful than you, and if you live your life by some crazy, kooky prophecy, you're probably going to be miserable and die under a king's lamp. Like it's not a great bunch of prophecies that all happen perfectly at the end, which maybe is bad storytelling or maybe is telling you something.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, right? I think it's also interesting that they've rumored that the prequels are about Valyria, in which case, then a lot of magical, mystical prophecy stuff will come up if they
Hopefully, yeah.
treat Valyria in the way that they've spoken about it or in the way that
before the
it's treated
fall
in
of
books.
Valyria.
Yeah, so
The doom.
The doom of Valyria.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I'm thinking of the Numenorians.
Yes.
Right, totally different. We wouldn't want to confuse this with Lord of the Rings because it's still the end.
Oh,
Wouldn't
we'll
want that to happen.
we'll get to Lord of the Rings for sure. I will say, I want to bring this up because I find this interesting. Speaking of George R. R. Martin and not finishing the books, and I think his sort of petrified fear now of going back in and trying to satisfy the rabid fandom. How do we think, like this is the first television, like monoculture television hit that has existed in an age where Twitter has been as powerful as it is in terms of leaks, in terms of fandom, in terms of outrage. I feel like it really affected how they told this series in season 8. I feel like a lot of it was them trying to surprise us, and I don't think they would have been so focused on that if they weren't so worried about keeping the fandom guessing. I think it really influenced the show. I don't know if anyone...
Oh,
has-
absolutely. I
Yeah.
feel like scenes with Dany to let us know that she's losing her mind. In the books, you get internal monologue where she's like totally imagining crazy things. But you don't get that in a TV show. You don't get that in a movie. You have to show it, and we never saw those scenes. Similarly, we didn't see the conversation between Tyrion and Bran that happened by the fireside in
Right.
Winterfell, which clearly had an impact on Tyrion.
Tyrion, yeah, obviously now, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, does anyone else have any other insights
Yep,
on that? or
for me,
thoughts?
I said this last night where like for this whole season, again, I'm not even being negative, I'm here to trying to be positive, but they were way more concerned with like the shocking surprises, like instead of any development towards those, which is actually not that satisfying, to just constantly be surprised
Right.
without the
Yeah.
lead up on it. And that's what I was
Mhm.
feeling, even the brand thing, I mean, some people were like, yeah, of course, but I don't think we were. We're like, what? And that benefited our draft, but we didn't. We were like, no, that speech doesn't connect with what
Right,
we've
the
seen.
speech, yeah,
And-
we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pity people who are millionaires and who have got
For
the
sure.
world in front of them, their creative
Yeah,
world in front of them.
right.
But at the same time, yeah, I mean, you can't help but think that it has affected, and you can read it in the script. You can read like a little clapbacking in the script
Oh, yeah.
of like, yeah, like just,
Especially in this last episode.
in this last episode, yeah, it kind of and you can't help but think, am I reading too much into this? But are you saying, stories are powerful things, and you don't get to choose.
Right.
Yeah, I felt like there was a lot of that. A lot
Yeah.
of like,
Our best
everybody
story.
thinks they know what's best, but they don't get to choose.
Well,
Yeah.
when Sam suggests democracy, and then Jan Royce is like, yes, my horse should have an opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll ask my horse. You're like, oh yeah, Twitter. Right, shut up, Twitter.
Yeah, and what is Jan Royce? Where has Jan Royce been?
He's been there.
Around.
He's been
I
there
don't
when
know.
someone else wanted to
Yeah,
talk to the
yes.
person he was talking to.
Yes,
It's like
yeah.
been consistently interrupted every
That's
episode.
on purpose. So is Jan Royce talking? Interrupt.
Interrupt him.
Which is sort of satisfying.
Yeah.
He was really in that scene, I think, just for the John Aaron,
To
Robin
to
Aaron.
babysit.
Yeah.
To babysit Robin Aaron.
The glow
That's his
up.
only-
The glow up
the glow
of
up
Robin Aaron, where he's
Yes.
just like a sullen, sexy teen now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in a
Oh,
boy band waiting to
yeah.
happen, that
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
And what were we saying, that he Neville Longbottom?
You did, he long got him so
Yeah.
hard, Robin
Yeah.
Aaron. Good for you, Robin Aaron.
Daphne's asking, why is there still a Night's Watch? What are they watching? Who was in it? It's a very
Okay,
good
but
question.
let's talk about the Night's Watch. That's a great question, Daphne, because we debated this a bunch last night.
Yeah.
If I recall, in the first, and I'm just talking about the TV show, not the book, because I read the first book, but I'm not a book purist, or I don't really remember a lot of that first book. But I will say that in the first episode, there's not a lot of belief about the White Walkers.
It's a penal colony.
It's a penal colony, basically.
Yeah.
Like, people go there because there is an assumption that it needs to be guarded because of a lore about the White Walkers and the Whites, about these people beyond the wall.
Mhm.
And I guess from the free folk, like, it was keeping the free
I
folk
think it's
out.
more-
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's-
that was the only threat that people believed was actually there.
Yeah.
So it was about keeping the people who were in the true north.
The true
real
north. The real north. Yeah,
Um,
keeping Giant's Bane out of
Yeah,
the
Kirsty thinks that the season 7 leaks are what motivated a shortened season 8. It seems like that leak spurred on the ending of the show. Just a feeling.
Yeah.
And there's a really great conversation between Amanda and Daphne. In fact, there's a deep thread now
Sweet.
about this idea of Arya's adventures for young women, for tweens.
Yes!
Except she swears and kills people.
Yes!
Yeah.
Which is
I'd be
really
into
what,
this.
really what teens
Yeah,
need.
viciously
I
kills
mean, that would
people.
attract a lot of teens.
Yeah.
I think. A lot of teen women, teen girls would be like,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, to be honest, it's the one spinoff that I would be most interested in.
Me too.
Yeah.
Pirate Arya.
I
What was
really
it?
hope-
Arya the Explorer?
Aria the Explorer.
Yeah.
Because it's basically Dora.
Ron the banker, maybe.
Oh yeah.
That's
Ron
so-
the banker.
I would say everyone's shocked about Bran being the king of the Six Kingdoms now. But I'm going to say this. The biggest surprise for me is that you put Bronn in charge of
Well, I
coin.
mean, Tyrion
he's the
said
richest
you'll
one.
have more money than you can imagine
Yeah.
if you help me out, like on
He's got all
many
the money.
occasions, right?
But he
Tyrion-
didn't mean
Tyrion
as a-
kept his promise.
I didn't mean as a banker.
occupation.
But Highgarden
Yeah.
has all the
Yeah.
cash. If you're coming to the table with all this money, it'd be nice if you're in charge of it.
See, I think that's I don't want, like, if someone says to you, you just want $1 million, but you also have to be a banker
Mhm.
now, that's terrible.
Like, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Terrible, like.
But it's funny because when you look at having a cutthroat.
I mean, it's not terrible to have $1 million.
No.
I'm saying it's just a shitty.
It's a job.
Wouldn't you just hang out and just be a rich dude?
I mean,
like, isn't that what he wanted?
If he wanted Highgarden, it kind of comes with some responsibilities, and I feel like the bumbling
Great.
idiot Martell father that was there before, who would just like say something stupid and then be told to shut up by his mother or his daughter.
The Tyrell, you mean?
No,
Yeah.
the Martell.
No, Mace
No.
Tyrell.
It was
Tyrell.
Is that what you're talking about?
Oh,
Marjorie's dad.
Marjorie's dad.
Yeah,
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 sorry.
yeah.
Too many names.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marjorie's dumb dad. He, I feel like, is really well replaced by Bronn, who just cares about rebuilding brothels. Like, it's a perfect, like, doofus in the role.
Oh, Bronn of the Blackwater, how you have fallen in
Yeah.
my eyes, in my esteem.
Oh, and Amanda Barker's saying Bran was her pick.
That's right.
all season, but only this season. And Amanda like binged this season so she wouldn't have to like wait week to week, which I
Yeah.
imagine is an exciting, interesting way to watch the show.
Yes.
So that
Cool.
Twitter's like week-long bullshit of like yelling at people doesn't
Yeah.
influence the way you think about Ghost not getting pet, because in 2 hours Ghost gets
Get
That,
back,
you
yeah.
know.
Like, let's
Yeah.
all take a moment and enjoy the return of Ghost,
Oh.
the coming
Yeah.
together of
Yeah.
John and his
Good boy, Ghost.
dog.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a great way to end the series.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
Marley and Me ending like the
I mean, then he
Yeah,
I
it's a
mean,
dog's journey, right?
Yeah,
it's a dog's journey because they go beyond the wall.
I know that's what we're watching this for. See a boy and his dog reunited.
Oh man. So let's get into the plot a bit more. So I mean, the echoes and the homage, like hardcore homage to the Lord of the Rings, it's undeniable.
Yeah.
There are shots. Like one of the shots.
And it steals the very ending of Frank Herbert's Dune.
That's right.
Like
Yeah.
the God Emperor of Dune, basically, it's the whole idea
It's a
of how
fan-
that ends,
it's a-
because Bran is going to live 1,000 years.
Yeah.
No, like, I don't care, Sansa, that he's never going to have kids. He's going to live 1,000 years. He'll be fine. He's the first long-range planner you have ever had in a throne. It's made of wood with wheels. It's also the best throne.
But I have a question about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because doesn't he need to be near like a heart tree? And didn't they cut down all the heart trees like south of the Vale or something?
Yeah,
Good question,
because
yeah.
it's the 7 that are
Right, they have like a new religion
Mhm.
south of the wall.
That's right. Yeah.
But
The
so
things
doesn't he
always
need
happen.
like the tree to plug into the
I
Well, maybe
don't
they
know
figured.
Find a new one.
Yeah. I don't know.
I
Bring
suppose
a
it's been
kite.
like 1,000 years,
Yeah.
right?
He's got a
Will the
hotspot.
human body.
He's gonna tether.
Yeah.
He's
Well, I
gonna
mean,
tether to
like,
a weird
Max-
one.
Branches
Because Max von Sydow was pretty old looking, but that body was still alive.
Yep.
Yeah, this is good though. Like, it's a good question to consider. How will he be? How will he have the benefits of being the three-eyed raven and be Bran in King's Landing?
Vanessa's saying, so then this ending isn't is the ending that the wheel wasn't broken because they're repeating the same bullshit? A council of fumbling idiots, Tyrion in charge, Bran barely paying attention. Seems like what happened after Robert's rebellion, except Jaime had enough honor to stop the Mad King before he massacred people instead of after. Vanessa, I disagree only because there's no question of whose heir is going to come next. There's no question of like one guy having a 30-year reign and then dying of a pig killing him. It's going to be like a long-range planner who won't die for generations. So it feels like a breaking of the wheel in that the next person in charge might just be the next three-eyed raven.
I feel like what it is it's like when a wheel is going and you like it's like a spanner in the gearbox. It's like you put a stick in the wheel. Like I don't know if it breaks the wheel entirely because it still keeps the power in the hands of the heads of those houses. So, I mean, Sam suggesting a
Democracy.
full-on democracy
Right.
was rejected, and I think that it in some ways it disrupts the wheel. I don't know. I don't think it's.
It slows down.
I mean, isn't this the Magna Carta? Like, wasn't the whole Magna Carta was the lords would vote,
Yeah.
would have some power, some legislative power. So it's the beginning of democracy, I
I
guess.
guess, yeah, it's like the slow road to
Yeah.
democracy.
I think
Yeah.
all the similarities, though, that she references kind of have to signal that, like, maybe it doesn't make a difference, and people are people, and it just depends on who they are. So at least we know the people at this table a bit better.
And I also
Yeah.
feel like the true breaking of the wheel isn't just that Bran's going to live 100 times longer than most people. I think it's that we've got characters choosing who the next king will be. And so it's like a Republic of Rome, where you've got a quiet number of people who get to make all the choices, and most of the people have no say.
Right.
Most of the people are not a part of an actual democracy, but the king is democratically elected by all the people in charge.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is that Sansa stepped away from being one of the
Yeah,
people in
she
charge
did.
of who's in charge.
I stand
Because
corrected.
if you're just like the northern country,
Yeah.
you don't get to have a say in what's happening in the southern country. So I really hope the northerners are happy with who replaces Bran, because they don't get a say now.
Yeah, but there's enough people in that organization that I think she was okay to let it go.
But is that really going to affect the Northerners though? Who's the king in the south?
It'll affect
Depends
right,
on
who
who's
they
the-
trade
have a better
with, and
Yeah.
like if they're going to be own sovereign nation, I suppose, then they're going to need allies and they're going to need to trade with people because they're in the north, right? So
this makes me think of, I wanted it to be like 7 separate kingdoms
Yeah.
with like a trade agreement at the end.
yes, that's right. Like it did have a feel of like the G20 summit,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
UN, and that.
And everyone's
that
just
meeting.
Brexiting the union?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So we've got a lot of interesting chatter going on here.
Okay.
Robin is asking, why does he have to be Bran the Broken? Why not Bran the Wise,
Yes.
Bran the All-Seeing?
Yes.
Marco's asking, why aren't we drinking wine out of a horn or giant's milk out of a horn? Good question.
Yeah, good question.
Amanda thinks Bran is the Dalai Lama, basically.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty cool person to have in charge.
Yeah, I mean, so speaking of whether or not we like this choice of Bran on the throne or not, I mean, I think I agree. Bran the Broken is a terrible, like, the thing is there are so many people talking about this in terms of how, you know, why do you have to identify these characters so often on the show with the traumatic thing or the thing that is like, they choose their words very poorly sometimes, I find, on the show for writers. You know, it's like, did you have to? Like, it is a fantasy. Yes, it sort of takes place in a medieval style, you know, world, but like, you can make up new ways to look at people and to talk about who they are.
I really think it was a nostalgic callback to what Tyrion called him on his way back down from the wall.
Yeah.
And, you know, Tyrion, you could have just kicked off the nostalgia and gone with a much better word
Yeah.
than Bran the Broken.
Agree.
Yeah.
Because the thing that defines him
Rude.
isn't the wheelchair.
Yeah, but like, how much of him did we really get to see? I don't really know much about him.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're right.
We
Having-
do, though. I'm sorry.
Are we
I'm
sure
gonna-
that Bran
I'm gonna
is a force
stand
for
Bran.
good?
Do
Okay.
we know that he's wise?
Yes.
He's aware. Bran the aware.
Listen.
Bran
He played
aware.
the Game of Thrones and he won.
He won the game
I didn't
of
get to see him
motherfucking Thrones.
I didn't really get to see him play though.
He didn't
Well,
play.
that's because he didn't do anything.
That's-
He like knew he was gonna win and was like, if I don't do anything, I'll be.
You don't think that though, right? Did he know
I
he was
don't
gonna
think
win?
that. I think that he doesn't see the future in quite those terms. This was a huge debate we had before we came to talk to you about all of this.
Yeah, Bran's powers. What
Bran's
are they?
powers, what are they? That's right. Does he have any? Let's find out. My BoJack Horseman reference. But I feel like, I don't know. I think that it's complicated and we don't know. They did not tell us and they left that vague, which some people, I think, it's not satisfying to
It's
have
very
left it.
unsatisfying.
Yeah.
I don't really know what his vision is for the world. Like, is he good or bad? Or,
But sometimes,
you know, like,
in an attempt to make things more clear, you come up with midichlorians. And
Yes.
then the Jedi are frigging horrible.
Mhm.
So you need to be careful how much of a rule you build and how not to build it terribly. And so I feel like I would have appreciated a very clear sense of whether Bran can see the future, the present only, and also knows everything that's ever happened in the past. He clearly needs to go to the page to read the page.
Yes.
But beyond that, he does know, he's got Encyclopedia Britannica, he just has to pick what part of it to read.
But he needs to be
does
guided.
does Britannica go into the future? Because he very specifically said, why do you think I came all this way? Which to me means he was
he
expecting
must
to
have
become
known.
the king.
Yeah.
And how far in advance did he think that was going to
But
be
I
one
think
of the
that is
outcomes?
key, is how far in advance does he know things. I don't think he could look forward and go, when they were in Winterfell, before the Battle of Winterfell, I don't think he was like, I see exactly what's going to happen from this vantage point of how all that's going to end. I think that's the flaw in the Three-Eyed Raven, is that the Three-Eyed Raven isn't a soothsayer who can, you know, or an oracle who can go, I see exactly how this ends, or Doctor Strange, like he's not Doctor Strange. I
It's
don't
very
think.
unclear though. He like the few things that he does do that I can think of off the top of my head. He makes sure that Arya gets that knife that ends up killing the Night
That's
King.
right, yeah.
He tells Jon who he really is, which leads
Well, he
to all
tells
kinds of
Sam
things.
who tells Jon,
Yes.
but it's all part of his plan.
Ultimately,
Yeah.
he makes it happen.
Yeah.
And those are like two really pivotal things.
But I don't think but this is the thing, is like, he doesn't know to do those things way in advance of doing them. I think he operates on a very instinctive
Yeah.
level, where somebody brings him information. For instance, when Sam comes in, let's talk about that scene. So Sam comes in and he says, Jon is actually the son, the bastard child of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. And Sam says, no, that marriage, the marriage was annulled, they got
Right.
married, and that's when Bran is able to see the wedding between Lyanna and Rhaegar. So it's not like he can independently call up future events.
I think he can, he just doesn't know where to look. Like, he
Yeah.
found his way to
Right.
baby Hodor.
Right.
Nobody
Yeah.
needed to tell him to go there, he just wound up.
But that was a moment of trauma. I think there are moments that bring him, and he doesn't even know what that is. I think that's
Well,
my.
and that was also earlier.
Yeah.
And the longer he's the Three-Eyed Raven, the better he is at this.
Right.
And I think something that happens in this season where Jon goes to tell his sisters, his lineage,
Yeah.
he looks to Bran, and Bran says, "It's your choice."
Yes.
And so he doesn't know what's going to happen.
That's
He
right.
just knows
That's
that
right.
it's his choice.
Or he knows
he
that if
knows
he
how
says
he
it's
will
your
choose.
choice, yeah, that's the
He
thing.
knows John, he knows how to
Or
do it.
maybe there's
Yeah.
a multiverse of choices that he can make. Maybe he tells a half-truth. Maybe he's like...
Maybe. I just don't
Yeah.
think it's as simple as like a Doctor Strange who's like, I have visited every possible outcome of the millions,
No,
and there is
yeah.
one outcome. Like, I don't think it's that.
Well, and even Doctor
specific.
Strange went to 14 million of them, but he could have gone to more. That was the time he had.
Yeah.
Like, there
Yeah,
are
there's
infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
Now, Kirsty's saying, I think the wheel has changed. There are no more rival houses fighting for the throne, and the only one Bran seems concerned about is Drogon.
It is a concern.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd be worried.
Concern, yeah.
Rogue dragon.
A rogue dragon, the
We should
little
probably-
rogue Drogon.
And hopefully Drogon's like
Drogon.
laying some eggs so that he's not the last of his kind.
But
How would he lay
how would he
eggs?
lay
Just
eggs?
asexually laying
Well,
eggs?
dragons don't have sexes. So I feel like they're like flies, where they're born with eggs in them, and then they just lay the eggs.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I read that on
fine.
the internet.
Yeah.
We're learning a lot here
Parthogenic.
today.
I wanted it to end
Parthogenic.
with a laying of an
I think
egg.
dragons were parthogenic.
Yes, I
don't
wanted
know.
an egg too.
I don't know.
Anyone know that?
Mark
Okay,
was
if
saying-
anybody knows, let us know.
How
Does
does a
that mean
dragon?
that, like,
how does-
John would take them into the fire?
Yeah, I mean, John is sort of abandoning his Targaryen
For now.
for now.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe he gets killed and brought back again.
It's all for now. The show's that's everything. Yeah,
For now.
Yeah, it keeps
Dot,
going.
dot, dot.
But I think the idea of putting Bran there as a long-range, 1,000-year king
How do we
is
know
that.
he'll live that long?
Yeah, I mean, someone
How do
could
you
kill
know
him.
that?
Oh, because the Three-Eyed Ravens
Raven.
live that long. So now that he's the Three-Eyed Raven, he's going to be like the God Emperor of Doom.
Do all the three-eyed ravens live that long? Like,
Yeah,
they
they're all
don't-
really
Will
Yeah.
Bran's like human body that wither away though?
He'll get old like Max von Sydow did
Yeah.
in the tree.
In real life.
In real life.
Yeah.
Look at
Specifically the way Max von Sydow gets
Exactly
old.
like Max von Sydow.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
And that other Three-Eyed Raven.
Yeah, right.
That he replaced.
Oh,
That's right.
right.
And the
Yeah.
first actors, before they were like, no guys, we
Yeah.
gotta get von Sydow.
Yeah.
That's
We
right.
gotta get a younger old guy.
Yeah, right.
Kirsty's wondering if maybe the real reason the Night King wanted Bran dead is because Bran was going to become the king.
I don't know if the Night King would have known
Oh.
that.
I wonder.
though.
Interesting.
Marco is saying Sansa Stark breaks her promise to Jon Snow and no one's pissed about that. #shame.
Sansa can do, no, I stand Sansa
Sansa can
entirely.
do
I
it.
stand her
No wrong.
leaving and getting sovereignty for the North. I'm in for all of Sansa.
Do you
Yeah.
think Jon
Yeah.
knew that Sansa would break the promise? Like, is this Jon's passive-aggressive way of doing...
Getting the word out?
Could be. I
Yeah.
mean, Jon has been a bit of a conundrum this season because he really sort of, it's similar to with Ygritte. There seems to be a thing where when he loves a woman, there's a kind of like loses the ability to like
Yeah.
reason. I don't know. It was like, or like to find his bearings. Like I thought he was very confused for most of the season.
Well, Amanda's saying Jon Snow equals Ross Geller.
Ross Geller, yeah, we had this whole conversation today about how Jon Snow is very Ross Geller.
Yeah, he gets a girlfriend and then loses all ability to think.
Yeah.
And then,
Ross
stabs her on a
Geller.
break.
So
Give her a break. Yeah, give her a break.
Tormund's Joey Tribbiani.
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh my god, Tormund is totally Joey Tribbiani.
Yeah.
Or is Podrick?
I don't know.
Oh.
And Jamie Chandler? Like who's
Yes. Vanessa is saying Bran can see parts of the future, which means he could see that Dany would sack King's Landing. Hot take, this whole time I thought Bran was like Doctor Strange, but in the end he's more like Thanos.
Whoa, those are fighting words.
Yeah,
Thanos.
yeah, just wanted to wipe out King's Landing.
No, I don't think so. I think what I find interesting about this Bran thing is that because they have left so much unclear,
About what a green seer is?
people are either creating the Dalai Lama in him or Thanos. I feel like there's either this move to him being like a peaceful, benevolent, leader who is steady and isn't going to have desires and want to take over, or a nefarious will let people burn. And it's so interesting because to me, it's either that they are such interesting writers that they have now left us with this quandary as we speak about it of like, is it good or bad to be neutral? Is it good or bad, to watch the future play out and just accept that and go with where things are headed? Like it's a very
That's ambivalence. You don't even need a king. That's chaos. That's anarchy.
But I don't think that's what he is. But I think it's interesting that a lot of people do, right?
Well, and I think it's fascinating that Bran, a Stark, who is in charge of 7 kingdoms until a 7th one breaks away. And it was the 7th one that he could have been playing favorite to. Because anytime a Lannister sits on the throne, you expect Lannisport's going to do well. Anytime a Baratheon sits there, you expect... But the outside looking in, some kid on the street who doesn't know what the Three-Eyed Raven is going to be like, there's a Stark sitting there, the people in Winterfell are going to be doing better.
Right.
Like the idea that anyone who doesn't understand what the Three-Eyed Raven is would assume there's a bias in that Stark. And that Stark has no bias, and now can't even play favorites because it's not under his purview.
Of interest as well. So Tyrion calls him Brennan Stark when he says first of his name, blah 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 blah. Although technically he isn't.
There are lots of brands.
There are lots of brands. But anyway,
maybe he's the first Bran the Broken.
Or the first Bran king of
Andal,
or
whatever, the 6 kingdoms, whatever.
It's like when you become a pope.
Yeah, maybe. But what's interesting is when Brienne is writing in the Book of Knights, whatever it's called, I don't remember the exact name, she is wearing new armor as the head of the Kingsguard, and there's a new sigil on it that's a raven. So he has his own sigil now. He is not being associated with the Stark sigil. So, which is interesting because it's almost like a whole other faction, right?
Yeah, to Kirsty's point when she was saying they're not fighting for the throne anymore. They're electing someone.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you were to take a snapshot down the road, if this show continued, we were watching it, but these lives went on in Fantasyland, and we dropped in a couple years from now, I mean, you'd have a whole other kind of set of problems, because I think, Bran, the Three-Eyed Raven or not, humans are going to have clashing value systems, and those are going to come to a head.
Well, and you probably don't really have an interesting story again until Bran is about to die.
Right.
Like, if you look at what follows up God Emperor of Dune, you get into the death of King Leto II, who has been around for 4,000 years and made a paradise of the universe. And then he's about to die.
And so everything
what
is
the
in
hell
chaos.
do you do
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Well, unless like one of the other, key actors changes their mind about being peaceful.
That's true, like Yara Greyjoy. The fact that she's like, yeah, this cat I've never met before, and the fact that we Iron Islanders are
Or
always
even
trying to
Jon.
secede, and you're giving the North a chance to leave. I'm cool. Yeah, we're gonna vote for
I
Bran.
was surprised that Yara
Yes,
went
and did this so
along.
easily.
Yeah, because the Iron Islands historically, wanted their independence. But the thing about Yara is I feel like part of what Yara wants is just for things to be okay. Like, there's been so much upheaval that I think she just wanted to go along with a peaceful...
They also have fewer people and resources versus,
They rely
Winterfell.
on, yeah. Right.
She also was alive and lost all of her brothers during the last Iron Island rebellion.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Right, so maybe she's just like, you know what?
Peace.
We'll
This
just
rebellion
do it.
idea is terrible.
We're gonna pirate a bunch.
Yeah, but who are they pirating? Like,
Whatever's west.
Yeah,
every
right.
Hang out with
all
Arya.
allies now?
Well, and they've also
That's
promised,
true, yeah, that's
promised
true.
not to pirate it.
They have. They said they weren't going to read anymore. They
Yeah.
weren't going to be those...
But that was a
pirates.
promise to Danny, wasn't it? Now, so.
But Yara upheld it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he on
Fishing colony.
until he died. Like, I feel like that was still the desire. I don't know what the Iron Islands will do, though. Like,
And they just pirate against people from Essos?
Essos. They'll just
Yeah,
go...
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They'll just
Take
head
out
over to
Bravos.
Essos.
There's an iron bank over there.
Yeah, I mean, there's
They'll
plenty
just
of...
build ships. Will be the naval,
Yeah.
Alameda, California.
Nice, yeah. Davos will just be like farming out ships.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Marco is curious how many of those noble voters really knew about Bran's meditation skills to like warg into stuff. Like, not a lot of people have witnessed what he can do.
Right.
The idea that he's been around a long time, yeah, including us, but the idea that he'll be alive a long time is never mentioned. The idea that he can warg
Yeah.
into the dragon is never mentioned. The idea that he can warg into people in other times is never mentioned. Like, he can do all kinds of crazy shit, and yet they're just happy with the fact that he knows stuff. as a reason.
fairly
And he's got all these other scary powers.
Okay, I'm fairly certain that word about like crazy
I'm sure
warning
there's, like,
brand
rumors
has
and
gone
stuff.
around. Like to assume that
But what have people
nobody
seen?
knows that.
The General Bird stuff
Yeah.
in
but-
episode
I
3.
don't know if they've seen anything. I'm sure they've heard a lot, and some of it may be true or false.
Yes.
And so he's maybe almost become this like
A
mythical.
myth, yeah. I mean, look at the people they used to accept as their leaders.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a step up from
Yeah.
like the people like Robert Baratheon. What did Robert Baratheon do? Get drunk, have sex with sex workers,
successfully
and go
run a
hunting.
rebellion.
He killed Rhaegar
Killed-
Targaryen.
Yeah, the old
kicked
way
He was a
the old
good
way of
fighter,
Yeah.
but he showed no other leadership
But that was the
skills.
old way of
What
taking the
leadership
crown.
skills does Bran have?
Oh, way
Bran-
more than Robert
I
Baratheon.
don't know, you know, Bran felt like quite the vegetable at times this season. Like, it's great that he would come in every now and then with his thing. But is anybody here satisfied with Bran as the king? Like, I get the long view. I was just like, when
Fantasy-wise,
Tyrion
yeah.
was saying the person with the story that is going to be, I was like, oh, is it going to be Gendry?
Yeah.
Is
I
it
thought
gonna
it was
be-
Sansa.
I thought it was going to be Sansa, and then it was like
Arya.
Bran, and I was like,
Or
what?
even Jon.
Well, John got the best story.
Yeah, anybody
Yeah.
but
John came back from the dead. Like that's
Yeah,
a lot of good
I
stories
think
there.
the speech was flawed in
Yeah.
terms of the logic connecting it
Yeah.
from the speech to choosing Bran. That's a different argument, and I agree with that argument because you're arguing who had the best story. I mean, out of all those people,
Yeah, sure.
sure. But there is no, if this series had ended with Jon Snow or whatever, Aegon Targaryen, whoever, that would have been the biggest letdown for me. That's a terrible choice. Sansa doesn't want to be queen of the realms. She wants to live in the north and be in the north. Arya is in no way a leader in that
No,
sense.
she's
The
not.
only other person could have been Tyrion. That is the only other person that I think. I like Gendry, but I think
He's
Gendry
not
would have
king.
been a strange choice.
Okay, what about Edmure?
Edmure totally had it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
That's a riveting speech.
Was he really about to nominate himself?
Yes.
That was a solid pitch for king.
100%.
I want to say that was marvelous. Like, to bring back Edmure Tully and
Oh,
have him
yeah.
do that was glorious. It was a glorious moment.
Like he really paid off his headshot over there.
Yeah, that actor is delightful.
Biting his lip going, hey, maybe I could be.
Yeah, maybe I could be. Guys, I've done a lot of things really badly. Please vote
I
me.
probably thought we're all gonna do this, and I might as well just get mine out of the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I got that vibe.
It's like a school speech. It's a speech at
Yeah.
school where you're
It's
like, I'll go
well, I guess
first.
we're all saying something about
But
it.
Melissa, and your point, like I'll buy that Bran's on, like I'm happy with it. But your point about all the other people and all their reasons for not wanting it, Bran showed no ambition for that either the entire series, right? So we say Sansa didn't want it, okay? We say Arya didn't want it. We say Jon didn't want it, but Bran wasn't like
Jon
campaigning
didn't want
either. Like so, that's why it was a little shocking to me. Even though again, no matter who they chose, fine, but he didn't seem to have that sort of bureaucratic ambition either.
No, but I
Yeah.
think in somewhere deep inside of him, he knew that that wasn't the point.
There has to be a mixture of like
I think.
demonstrating the skills and wanting it, or feeling like it's your duty to do it, which maybe Bran does.
Maybe that's
feel.
right.
But it felt like he flipped the script in that meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Not something he wanted, wasn't on the map. Oh, I'm gonna go away for a while.
Yeah.
And then, actually, yeah, I was meant to be king. Let me.
It's like Joe Biden. He's Joe Biden.
All of a sudden,
Yes.
out of nowhere.
No, Edmure
it felt a
Tully is
little
Joe
weird.
Biden.
That's a good point.
100%.
Yeah.
But
It
no,
didn't feel very Branish.
Yeah.
What
Off
Bran
brand,
did. It
off
was
brand.
It's off
Thank
brand.
you.
Yes.
It's a new t-shirt.
That is excellent.
Hashtag-
That is excellent. I don't know. I
We'll
don't
share that.
agree.
Yeah.
I don't agree. I mean, I'm not like jumping for joy at the choice, but I think that the thing about Bran is he isn't one or the other. He isn't just the three-eyed raven where he's completely devoid of any feelings and any of his own emotions, and he's only this like, computer AI.
Really, because that's what we got from
Yeah, that's what they were going for.
But no, but I think that he also has.
How you doing, Bran? I feel nothing.
What do you
That's
want?
your king.
I'm not here right now.
But he didn't become like there were still elements to who he was where he was involved in the politics of what was happening. What I'm saying is he wasn't just this exterior force that came in and only dealt with exteriors. He was involved
Yeah.
in what was happening moment to moment in key ways. So it's hard because he isn't just one or the other. I think he exists in a weird middle space, which makes it a controversial choice for Tim to suddenly be in that position. Yes.
He didn't have to tell Theon Greyjoy that he's a good man.
Yeah.
He didn't have to say a lot of the things that he said to some of the people, like human choices that he made.
Yes, he's still got some humanity to him.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually why I like him as a choice. Because he is a kind of evolution of something. He's the promise of something different. Whether that different thing becomes good or bad, or serves or doesn't, is a whole other conversation. But it's the promise of something outside of the thing that they have had forever, you know, which I like.
And it's interesting, like looking at him as what the creators of the show or D&D consider, and maybe George too, is that what is the most valuable asset as a leader? And to them, it's a storyteller, someone who owns the stories, someone who has the breadth of human knowledge.
Yes.
And I guess that is because it gives him empathy, or it gives him some kind of life experience, or it gives him, I don't know, like I don't know what they're saying in terms of what we need as a leader.
Well, it sounds to me like in practice, the small council's running everything anyway. So the king just needs to be a good story so the people rally behind whoever you choose. In which case, you could have picked Arya, you could have picked Jon,
No, I
you
don't
could
think
have
that's
picked
what they're
anyone with a
saying.
good story.
I don't think that's what they're saying at all, yeah.
But ultimately, all Bran's going to go do is go find Drogon.
No, that's not all he's going to do. In fact, I think what they're...
In this episode.
Let me say this. And maybe I'm reaching for poetics on this show, where I don't know if the writers are reaching for poetics. But to me, the poetic thing about Bran could be that we always assume that empathy is what we saw in Marjorie Tyrell with the poor people, or Daenerys when she freed the slaves. And what we learned on this show time and time again is that she freed those slaves and then she colonized those lands and she became power hungry. Marjorie Tyrell did that because she was trying to be the queen, not a queen, the queen. So to me, I think what you could take from it is that the show of empathy, the pretend empathy that keeps happening with people, where they act like they care about everybody else, but really they're only serving their own purposes. Bran, because he does not have those kinds of desires, it's a different kind of empathy. I don't think he lacks empathy. I think he has a different kind of empathy based on the breadth of knowledge he possesses. I think that's possible.
And in a way, it's the most Ned Stark quality that Bran possessed, right? Even when when Ned was offered power in the hand of the king, he didn't necessarily want those. He was kind of compelled to. So in a way, it's the thing that I think connects Bran to Ned, to Starkness, despite the fact that he's beyond, he's transcended Starkness.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's also beautiful. Talk about poetics.
Now, Vanessa agrees with you, Melissa. Vanessa agrees with you that the wheel is not broken. Give it 15 years and the same things will start to play out there. There'll be a war of succession because there's no clear heir. Like, people are not really going to be able to wrap their heads around this, I think, is the issue.
Yeah.
Tim Hinchcliffe is asking, what are our thoughts on the importance of understanding people's motives? How good are Bran's social skills? Like, is he going to know what people are doing because he's the three-eyed raven, or because he can read any kind of, like, human behavior?
But I think what's interesting about that is that I guess the question is, having Tyrion around will help if he listens to him. But I guess it becomes about, is it actually important to understand social cues if you know someone's where someone's actions are coming from? Bran didn't have to read the social cues Baelish was putting out to know that Baelish had done what he had done. So, but it's kind of like in Minority Report, like, is it good to have precogs or is it bad to have precogs? Like, what are the ethical ramifications of having someone in charge who can see in that way is a very interesting question.
Do you wind up with a better society or some kind of deep fascism?
Maybe.
It's hard to say.
I don't know.
Marco is saying he's a little too whispery to be king, in his opinion. But Marco's also saying that Mira Reed should have been at the table.
Right? Yes.
We would have won. We would have won.
Yeah.
And Tony Chiapetta is saying what about Howland Reed? And was that Howland Reed sitting next to Sam when Tyrion was brought out of his cell?
So,
Who was
as
that?
far as I could find online, so I did a little bit of research on who those other gents were, and it seems that, as far as anyone could tell that I read, they were some other, I think one of them is from someone from the Reach, like there are other lords, one from the Reach and one from the Westerlands.
The new Prince of Dorne was there.
Yes, but the other two dudes were like, you didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
They apparently were not. I think if one of them was Howland Reed, they would have pointed to.
And I think one of them brought a water bottle.
Yes.
I think two of them.
Again.
Was maybe one of them Fergus?
Oh,
What do you mean? What happened
the
to
mysterious
Fergus?
Fergus.
I don't know. Okay, so we've done a lot of talking about Bran, which obviously is good because it was a big twist.
King Bran versus
Twister-Rooney.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Daenerys because this was the end of the road for Daenerys Stormborn. I loved that there's a shot. So the shot of her walking to talk to the Dothraki and the Unsullied is just like the shot of Saruman right before Helm's Deep. It's like if you look online, you see her like from behind. You see that they track that shot the same way, which I think is beautiful. Like that to me was a beautiful homage.
But then the reverse angle of that with the dragon wings
Oh,
behind her, when
those-
you're like, oh, she's a demon.
Yeah,
Like,
what a glorious shot! Like beautiful, beautiful. So I mean, pretty obvious that she's a tyrant, where she's like, I want to free all these people in all these other places that we've never heard of, and let's go. I thought it was a strange choice, writing-wise, to have a scene with Jon and Tyrion where they talk about why Daenerys did what she did in the last episode. I mean, in a way, I think it was interesting because it really was the audience, like the fans. There was such an obvious interplay of people justifying it and people being confused about it. But how do we feel about where we saw Dany at the beginning of this episode? How do you feel about Daenerys' end in this episode? How she actually went out?
I think it was a good death for her.
Okay.
Right? She died. I mean, like right before she died, she had conquered. She had like done everything she wanted to do her whole life.
Yep.
She was in the arms of the man she loved.
Yep.
They were making out, right?
Yep.
Like everything was like coming together for her
Yep.
up until the last second.
it was a serious
right?
like Han Solo death.
Yeah, it really was.
Like
Yeah.
she was winning right way to the end.
She didn't really have plans beyond that moment.
No.
either. I guess other than
To keep conquering, because that's
Yeah.
kind of what she does.
Yeah,
those are new plans. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I feel like she
In terms
made
of
those up.
lifetime goals.
Yeah, she made those up as she was landing with Drogon. She's like, what are we doing now?
Yeah, and it also was completely foreshadowed in her the vision in season 2 in the House of the
Yeah, the
Undying.
snow
When she
and
like
the-
she like is about to touch the throne and like take her place, and then goes to be with Drogo and her unborn son.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, really, I mean, yeah, it was really telegraphed that they were going to go for that vision of her in Karth.
Now, how much socio-political nuance do we think Drogon understands in the scene?
Yeah, all of it.
Drogon, Daphne Simone is right. Drogon, like, most sophisticated reasoning of anyone
Beautiful.
on the show.
It was like, I get, he's like, this thing has ruined you all.
Yeah,
And it was beautiful.
yeah.
Because
She had torched
also,
Jon.
she had a stabby thing in her, and the chair was made out of stabby things. So I feel like
That is not what happened.
he didn't
Yeah.
like stabby things.
No, I like the smarter awareness of the political.
I think dragons are pretty astute. Also, I feel like he didn't burn Jon because there's this beautiful shot again, like the cinematography was gorgeous, of when Drogon is covered in snow and then he sort of reveals himself, and then he and Jon have this long moment. And I think it is also a moment of Drogon sort of recognizing Jon and understanding who Jon is,
I know what
which
you-
is also partly why I don't think he burned Jon.
Did
Because it
anyone
probably
else
wouldn't work.
in that moment think that John was just going to get on Drogon and fly north?
Yes.
I was like, you were going to
Yeah.
hijack
Yeah.
this.
Right? Out of here.
Gotta
What a
dodge.
brilliant idea.
Yeah, because Dany without dragons is ultimately not that powerful,
Yeah.
really. I mean,
Yeah.
she's got Grey Worm and some residual armies, but
Yeah.
without the dragon, I think I'd said last night before, I can see a world where Dany lives, but the dragon dies,
Mm-hmm.
and then she has sort of a Howl's Moving Castle, where the magic goes away and she's just a sort of withered version of someone who was once powerful. It didn't happen. It's Game of Thrones, so they're going to kill her.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, I think she had to die.
Christina Winter was expecting that Drogon would try to burn Jon, and then he wouldn't burn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wanted
Again,
that also seems
that
like
would've been
a
a cool
possibility.
moment.
Yeah.
A long line of things we would have loved to have seen. And
Well, they planted so many seeds on the
Yeah.
show, and so it is disappointing when things that get planted don't end up happening.
Yeah, like Jon being a Targaryen winds up having nothing but a
Jealousy.
psychological
Yeah.
effect on Dany,
Yeah.
and that's it. And we don't really get to go into what that psychological effect is. If Varys's many ravens did something, if him being Rhaegar Targaryen's child had some actual impact, other than Dany is unsure about her plan,
Yeah,
it would have felt like, oh good,
Yeah.
he's a Targaryen for a reason. And then he just winds up being in the penal colony.
I think it was interesting, that scene between Tyrion and Jon when Tyrion talks about the words of each house, and Jon says, "Our words aren't stamped on us from the moment we're born. It's like, if that were true, I'm fire and blood as well." And I don't think this is sufficient to this point, but I do think that was the writer saying Jon doesn't care about his lineage. He doesn't care about being a Targaryen. He is abandoning that. I mean, that's not nearly enough to suggest all of that, but I think that might have been what they were pointing at.
But he's also a bastard and was raised a bastard, and on Tyrion's advice, it became his armor. And so the fact that he never knew either of his other parents, he has no loyalty to them, like, he didn't see his grand destiny, and so as a result didn't want one. And I think that's part of why him going to the north and getting to be with his dog is a great choice.
Can we circle back to Varys writing those notes? Did they get out?
I don't know.
I guess,
Do people know about it?
Anybody's
Because wouldn't
guess.
that have changed that council meeting if it was broadcasted and if everybody knew, oh, by the way, he's a Targaryen and he is the guy in jail who killed his aunt is actually the claim.
I think they planted it where we were like, did that happen? But then I think because nobody knew and it was never brought up that he didn't end up sending any of them. He was just writing them, and then they never got sent.
I don't like that he makes much business of taking his rings off.
Yeah, the ring thing was also confusing.
I feel like by the time you've got
it's
this large council of people deciding what to do next, the wheel's been broken. Like, at the point where, before Tyrion even opens his mouth and says, maybe we should all pick kings, before that happened, like, there was not a clear successor, because the Baratheon line is all jumbled and screwed up, and the Lannister line is a mess, and like Gendry, he's a bastard anyway. Like, there is no clear succession, and if we all wanted Targaryens to be in charge, Dany would have been a great choice, but none of these people were 100%, like, everyone...
Well, after she burns down the city.
It could have been down
thought better of it.
Maybe, but I feel like whose kid is ultimately irrelevant by the time all those people are sitting around that table.
I think also it's hilarious, like, I think the thing nobody's really talking about much is the fact that nobody except for Edmure Tully wants to step up and do that. Like, there's an opportunity in that moment for somebody to go, I want to lead. For somebody to step up.
I should be king.
And nobody does it, which is, like, very interesting, because who the heck wants that job?
So why doesn't Sansa say, wait a minute, I know who should be king, my brother Jon Snow, he's...
Well, I think because he's a prisoner at that point.
So it would endanger him?
Yeah, but Tyrion was a prisoner at that point. He was a part of the conversation, like.
Well, he was brought out there so that they could decide what to do with him, and then I think he, as Tyrion does.
But why was he brought out there to decide what to do with them?
They were both supposed to be brought out. That's
I
a
think
good
they
question,
were
I don't know.
deciding what to do with Tyrion, and he just like flipped the script and was like, let's.
I feel like Weiss and Benioff were trying to figure out what the hell you do with Jon if he comes out in there, and nothing. Obviously, he does nothing. So they came up with a mechanism whereby Jon doesn't come out, which was Grey Worm says no.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Hey, let's talk about Grey Worm for a second.
Grey Worm
Grey
didn't
Worm
want to
was
climb
running
into
stuff for a
Croatia.
little while. Like, when Dany dies, and there's a gap in time, and Grey Worm
seemed to be in charge for
seized
a
the
minute.
Iron Throne, 200 points. I mean, he was kind of running things and kind of dictating, I guess, that this meeting could happen, that he would, he agreed to have them come out
Yeah,
and
'cause
agree
in
to
the
let them?
interim,
He
yeah.
was the leader
leader.
of he was the leader of House Targaryen in that moment.
Yeah.
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 If you would have got another episode out of it, you could probably see while they're sieging King's Landing, the Unsullied have nothing to eat.
Yeah.
Also, there's a bunch of Dothraki around that they don't necessarily get along with. Who knows? I mean, all of this could have been fleshed out with another episode.
Yeah, like if we had another episode, we would. I agree.
It's
Like,
like another 3 weeks go by.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we just like cut to 3 weeks later.
Yeah, I think the cut was really confusing.
Yeah.
It was like not enough information before the cut to feel like the cut made sense.
And it felt like to me that they wiped out King's Landing, like, people are dead.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
nothing. So is it just like populated with Unsullied and?
And some
Well, the
Dothraki.
Unsullied are leaving. What happened to the Dothraki?
Well, it's funny. Vanessa's saying Grey Worm would have killed Jon instantly if he found out like what just occurred. I find it strange that they know exactly what happened. They know that Jon killed Dany and that Drogon flew off with her body. Like, they know all of these things because Jon, being raised by Ned Stark, probably told them exactly what
Yeah,
occurred,
right.
down to the last, like red-handed detail of
Yeah.
what he did.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, everyone's aware of what happened.
Yeah, I guess he could have just been like, she flew away.
Yeah, she and Drogon left.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
She said I'm in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said I've got the better claim to the throne. I don't know, guys.
I have a feeling that what we didn't see in between that moment and the 3 weeks later was also that nobody was really in charge, and so part of what was happening was all those people were summoned so that there could be a conversation about what happens next.
Because it was a
And-
breakdown of everything.
That's right, and so Grey Worm was in charge of the prisoners and like still kind of running the show in terms of the
Disaster
armies.
relief in King's Landing.
Right, yeah, he's so good at that.
Yeah. Just slit everyone's
Slit
throat.
everyone's throat. But I think there was like a power vacuum, and they needed everybody to come together to decide what to do. And in the end, Tyrion is part of that conversation. Jon isn't, because I guess Jon killed Daenerys, so they.
No
I don't
vote.
know. It's weird. It was very
There
strange.
was
Like
some
the pieces
comment-
didn't really like
Yeah.
fit together. Yeah, I agree.
There was a comment about how, like, in terms of why they had to send Jon to the wall, was because the Unsullied and the Dothraki would, like, not
Definitely kill him.
accept anything.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
And I also love how he
So-
deserted the wall immediately.
Did he
He
desert
was
the
like,
wall? I mean,
yeah.
he was like,
definitely did.
I felt like
He
he
went
was
to the
going
real
on.
war.
I felt like he was going on patrol,
Yeah.
No.
taking like escorting the free folk back to
Back
their
to their
homes.
homes.
Why
No,
did he do
no,
a
the free
patrol?
folk were escorting him back to
His
his
true-
To
the
like
real
our
one.
home,
I-
to like
I-
be with
the
the
real
wild
one.
ones.
Maybe the lyrics to Game of Thrones, the theme
Yes, the
song
lyrics.
that were being sung, were telling us in like
Yeah.
Sanskrit what was occurring.
Maybe in like High Valyrian.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I thought so. That scene was obviously a callback to the first ever scene in the show, where that expedition goes north and they see the White Walker. But so I wonder if it could have also been a kind of recon of like what's happening in the north now.
And
It's
like what they left.
Yeah, it's unclear if Jon was going for good or if he was going and coming back. I don't know that.
But
that's
I feel like there was a moment though, sorry, that
No.
he stood in the kind of Lord Commander's position.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So it looked to me like, oh, you're
The look.
the Lord Commander, and as such, he would be escorting the wildlings, like
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
he flashed that. So I don't know why I'm Lord Commander, but I'm bouncing up north now.
He was also dressed like he was in the Night's Watch.
Man,
And
yeah,
you've seen him when
yeah.
he goes waddling, he goes full waddling.
Full waddling.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the wall has proven to have been a feckless thing in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
So that the real defense, even though there's quite frankly nothing really to defend up there at the moment,
That they know of. Yeah.
was always a combination of Mance Raiders, wildlings,
Yeah.
and even Craster. And like there was always something
Yeah.
going on further north.
Yeah.
As Tormund said, you're a real north, like the real
Yeah.
north, not
Right.
this one. So like I don't think he was abandoning anything.
No.
I think it was just an extension of saying the wall is not. The wall might be a nice architectural item, but it's not. It's not protecting anything because
Yeah.
when we needed protection, it fell
It
like
didn't.
a literal wall.
It was
Yeah.
it was good until they had an ice dragon.
Yeah.
Like
Right,
it was
yeah.
very effective.
But I will
until
say,
then.
I will
Let's put a
say,
big hole in it right now.
it's
Giant
true.
wall.
It's a giant wall.
It's It's just a plinth or
I do
something.
think it's
Yeah.
a testament. So yeah, Jon. There's a lot of things we could complain about with Jon Snow, rightly so. But I think that one thing we got to give him is that he's always in his position at the Wall as Lord Commander. Even when he was undercover with Mance Rayder, all that stuff, he always really understood the totality of the situation. And I think part of what he maybe is trying to do is understand what the North is now, and what all those communities are, who's left, what's gone on.
Someone's got to do recon. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a brutal, wash of viciousness that
Yeah.
went down. Is Deepwood Mott still there?
What's
We
up
don't
there?
know. We don't know what survived the blue tiles flipping
I
in the
know.
opening sequence. So there's a lot of recon for him to do.
Yeah.
And one member of the Night's Watch, it seems.
Yeah, I know, right?
He's the only
there's
one
some.
there right
Yeah.
now.
I
It's
mean,
just like-
because Ed died.
Yeah.
Ed was the only
And he's
one.
the last other one, and then Tormund, everyone else around him was dressed like a wildling.
Yeah.
So he was not only the warden of the penal colony, he was the only inmate.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I liked that that's the way I liked that he had to go back.
Mhm.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's where you want to put Jon Snow.
Yeah. It's kind of the most
Everybody
effective
ended
place.
up where I wanted them to be.
It's just how they got
How they got
there
and it's
was
like
a bit,
what
yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's talk about Arya, and I mean, I hope that Arya doesn't become a colonizer and she just goes to see what's up. You know what I
Swashbuckling
mean?
adventure.
That's it. Just consider.
Yeah, just a
Yeah.
pirate,
Yeah.
not Christopher Columbus.
Or if she is,
Yeah.
if she is going to discover
Yeah.
what's west of Westeros.
Yeah.
I hope that she changes faces to do feminist things.
That would be good. That is the one sequel that I would really want to watch is The Adventures of Arya.
Maybe she finds unpopulated places.
Like on a deserted island where she just sets
But
up
that's
shop.
no fun. She kind of likes to go to places with different cultures and learn
Murder
about
them.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe she'll
Learn-
she's
learn-
she's built
learn
for
their
colonizing.
fighting style,
Yeah.
learn their magical things. I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah, I did like the shot. I did like her on the boat and the callback to her going to Bravos. It was
Yeah,
sort of
with the
like-
Stark sigil
with the
that
Stark
she's clearly the
sigil.
captain of this ship.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I love her so. I love that character so deeply. I
I
can't
saw
even.
some great fanfic of her and Yara.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, yes.
Ah.
Yara the Explorer.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was Ariara.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Something to make the
Can you imagine that show, Arya and Yara, on their own,
Yeah.
It's too confusing. Introduce
Arya,
myself
Arya,
to people.
Arya.
Arya and Yara.
Arya.
I'm Arya, I'm Yara. What?
What?
I would ship
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's you would ship it. Yeah, you already are.
Yeah,
You're shipping
yeah.
it hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I loved as well Lord of the Rings moment. I mean, obviously, the huge equating the Iron Throne to the Ring of Power, Daenerys to Gollum, really, to
Yeah.
to Smeagol, and the
Drogon to Mount Doom.
Yeah, exactly. The burning it in fire, that all really tracked.
By tracked, you mean was cribbed from someone else's story?
Yeah.
Right.
Or you mean
Frodo-
it worked
Frodo-
well for you?
Frodo
Yeah.
leaving on a boat.
Frodo leaving on a
Arya
boat,
leaving on a
the
boat.
Starks
Yeah.
there with the
Yeah.
hobbits, that all was it was we get it.
Yeah.
You like Lord of the Rings.
Brienne
I mean,
editing.
I like Lord of the Rings, but yes.
Brienne editing Jaime's story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, so there's two beautiful moments. For my
Before we get to
favorite-
those moments, I want to
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
Kirsty's saying maybe Arya could bump into Xena and Gabrielle.
Yes.
That would be great. Be into this.
Amazing.
But yes, into the Sam writing a book.
The Samwise
similarities.
Gamgee, yeah. I love the callback to the scene with him and Maester Ebros, where he's talking about how he's writing the book,
Oh, yeah.
and he tells him the title, and he's like, "Well, you don't like my title?" It's
That was a little much.
You guys, come on. It was so on the nose.
Oh,
I'm ready.
yeah.
Brutal. Yeah,
I
brutally
mean,
so.
yeah. I'm happy Sam is finally a maester. He doesn't really understand how to be a maester, so that's
He
interesting.
was cool for
the
6
Grand
weeks.
Maester, the Grand Maester is a kindergarten dropout.
Yeah, he's
He was not there long.
he cleans
He's
the
a new kind
bedpans.
of maester, though.
He's a new kind of maester. That's a show I'd love.
Yeah, but wasn't Kyber a new kind of maester too?
He sure was. He was
Yeah.
the bad kind.
Yeah, the bad new kind.
So there was a lot of backlash online about it's
Fireworks!
Victoria Day. So
No,
Brienne?
Victoria.
Oh, Victoria, yes. I think so there was backlash because, you know, she looks in the book, she writes in Jaime's history, and she paints a very rosy picture. She doesn't write what many wonderful Twitter memes suggested, which the Twitter memes are awesome, of her quoting Mean Girls. There's a lot of great stuff out there. But, yeah, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind that she decided to have him have an honorable end in that book, because
It's accurate.
yeah, for whatever their personal situation was, she loved Jaime, and he made her a knight, and I thought that that was okay. I didn't mind that. There was some, you know, backlash around, you know, these two male showrunners making it about how great Jaime Lannister was.
Well, and there aren't a lot of knights left to finish this part of the book.
Yeah.
And the fact that her two options are don't write anything and write something. And once she chooses write something, her two options are write something mean or write something nice. And he was a complicated combination of what both of those things are. And so I think it's just a very generous choice that she makes for the first man we see her fall in love with.
Yeah.
To have this mature way of looking at essentially a bad breakup and a horrible betrayal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
it's beautiful.
I thought it was accurate
And
more than
generous.
anything. I just thought it was generous of her.
I think also, like, she has the unique position of knowing him better than anyone, maybe.
Yeah, and maybe Tyrion.
Other than Tyrion,
Yeah.
So I think, like, she looked beyond their one night, or maybe two, and the betrayal.
Yeah, they got
Spring break.
And really, you know, what was in the book was only the bad about him. So she was like, there's so much more that he did, and I know about that, so I'm going to write it down. It's like, it was very in character for her, I thought.
And it was also her job. Yeah.
Christina Winter's
she
also
does her
saying, why did Brienne leave Sansa? There should have been some dialogue around that, like
Yeah.
blood oath, that she was just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm
Because
leaving your country.
Because she gets she comes with Sansa, and then she gets promoted to the Kingsguard.
Yeah, but
She got a new job. But that was like,
she's working for someone in another country.
but
You
she
can't, like,
she fulfilled her
Always
oath.
wanted to be
that
the head of the
Sansa is safe forever.
Sansa, like, I think we're robbing Sansa of her agency. Sansa says, probably, knowing Sansa, dude, I'm gonna go rule the North. You get the opportunity to be the Kingsguard. Stay here. I'm good. Like, I think that's
Well,
what
I think
Sansa
this is
said.
yet another one of those moments where we would have had a really cool scene.
Yeah,
In
sure.
season 4,
Yeah.
we would have gotten a great scene between Arya and Gendry. They were in the same room there. There would have been a nice little, conversation. Same
Yeah.
for Sansa and Brienne. These are character moments that we would have gotten if there were 7 episodes
For
or
sure.
8 episodes.
100% agreed. It would have been cool. But I think that in that instance, I don't think that's as big a plot hole for me as, like, that's a pretty obvious thing.
And it's really more of a, like,
Why did we get that
what
scene?
happened?
Yeah.
Well, when we first met Brienne, the thing that
Yeah.
she wanted to win was, like, for that combat she had,
That's right.
was to be a knight of the Kingsguard.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, when
So
she
she,
fights
like-
and then she joins Renly's.
Yeah,
right.
So she, like, fulfilled her dream.
Yeah, and Christina
It's quite nice.
says, sure, I just wanted to see
You
that
wanted to
scene."
see it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I
absolutely.
loved that
Put that
scene.
on a t-shirt.
Those
Yes.
two actresses, like, that would have been a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because you would have been able to talk about Catelyn, like, you would have been able to go in for the
Yeah.
nostalgia stuff that
Mostly,
we
I
wanted
feel
to
like
see.
Catelyn, like, there's that moment last season when Arya and Sansa are looking over, they're standing in Winterfell and they're looking over and they talk about Ned and they say the pack survives and they say, I miss him. And I was like, talk about your mom. Like, I don't like the way Catelyn just kind of got, nobody ever brought Catelyn up again, because Catelyn was awesome, and I just...
Catelyn was also a monster to Jon Snow and never really took it out on the man who she thought is responsible
Yeah,
for
sure,
Jon Snow's
she was
existence.
flawed,
Yeah.
but we just lauded Jaime Lannister, so I think it's okay to give
No, I think
Catelyn
if Jon Snow is kicking around, it's better to miss Ned than it is to miss.
But he wasn't in that
Oh, he
scene.
wasn't in that
It's
scene?
his
Okay.
daughters. It's
Oh,
her
that
daughters.
scene, right,
Yeah,
okay.
listen.
Yeah.
Catelyn Stark forever. I'm just gonna say it. I want to say one thing I loved was Tyrion in that scene with the new council. First of all, the callback to the chairs and
Yeah.
the dragging the chairs with Tywin and that drama. But I love that story that he tells, that he starts telling about, I brought a jackass and a honeycomb to a whorehouse.
Yes!
That's the third time he's tried to tell that joke, and he always gets cut off, and I think that's delightful.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lovely little Easter egg inside that episode. That's very, like, it's a deep cut, but it's sweet. I want to say the Sansa crowning was one of the most beautiful parts of the episode.
Yeah.
That dress.
Yeah.
I mean,
that dress.
And that's a cool crown.
that crown. And you know what? That crown is a callback to a Cersei crown. So there's a shot of Cersei from the back, and you see a crown that looks almost identical to that, but then you see the shot in the front, and then you see the two wolves.
Oh, neat.
So it's also, I think, a neat little moment of seeing how much she learned from Cersei and how much she's grown from that.
Cersei was a huge mentor for her.
Whoever has been designing
Crowns.
Sansa's and like
It's a good crown game.
I want to give a shout
So
out
their
to
costumes gave it credit.
Yeah.
the last episode. This is the last episode ever, so I just want to say, like, the creative team on this show, from like the sets to the VFX to the props to the weapons to the costumes, like, it's just a glorious achievement in like design and in execution. I think that's part of why the show has been so profoundly inspiring to so many people and engaging. It's like, yes, the story, but also the execution. That's on a level that we haven't really seen.
They
Oh,
built
absolutely.
Dubrovnik.
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
freaking-
And then they burned it.
Yeah,
and
they
then
ripped it
burning
down.
down. Yeah.
Vanessa says, side note, I love how much of the previous season's inspired conversations are about what's going to happen. And this season's is just conversations about what actually happened, because they skipped so much information that we would have liked to have seen.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, so Daenerys thought this and did this and felt bad because of this. But yeah, often episodes were about what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the thing about being in the beginning, the middle, or the end. In the beginning or the middle, you've got the next things to think about.
Yeah.
At the end, it's really just what's happening now, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. It's hard to end a show. It's especially hard to end a show that's this involved and intricate. So, yeah. I don't know.
kind of wanted a 6 Feet Under ending.
Yeah, I know.
That ending
It's hard.
was so good.
But then I think about a lot of my favorite shows, and most of them have seasons, and endings that I don't love, but I still love the show. So, yeah, it'd be interesting on a rewatch of this. Like, if we go back a year from now or months from now to rewatch this season, how we might feel about it.
Could
Well,
we
and watching
redo
this
the
whole
draft
series.
as well?
Yes.
Let's talk about the draft. Let's
Because
get
I
to
have
the
different
draft.
sense.
Based on your-
I would choose different people.
So based on, what do
Before we
you-
get to the draft, I
yeah.
want to say two things. One, rewatching this entire show as how Sansa becomes the Queen of the North, how Bran becomes the king, and how Jon Snow goes back to Winterfell, and how Daenerys goes mad. Knowing what the end is, it would be a fascinating rewatch.
Maybe you'll
I think.
see,
Yeah.
or
Maybe.
they really
Maybe,
did.
or you will actually see the moment that they switched gears, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh no, we
We gotta end this thing quick and make
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, maybe.
Ally McDonald says, I thought more emphasis should have been put on the vision Daenerys had in her future when she was in the House of the Undying coming to fruition. Because really, when she's walking into where the throne is and the snow's coming down, it is a real callback to that. But yeah, some more emphasis on that would have been, an interesting flavor.
It did go quickly.
Yeah, you had to know you were
Yeah.
watching something
I mean,
again.
Chris was, so we were watching it, so some of us were watching it together, and I did love how Chris was like, all right, sit on this throne, because he drafted Daenerys, and it was just the moment before Jon
Jon
She
Snow.
knew it was gonna happen. She reaches the desert, sit down, girl, sit. Get to them 200 points.
That's right.
And she almost did.
Well, you knew he was coming. He was like,
Yeah.
and there he is.
I did love, speaking of shots that were beautiful, the shot of her bleeding out and the symmetry of Jon being stabbed and him bleeding out in the snow. Also really good. Yeah, I think that the episode had some really beautiful moments direction-wise. And then there's a lot of walking, which sometimes was a little
Walking and thinking.
A lot of walking and
seeing
thinking.
things.
But maybe that was Benioff and Weiss who directed the episode, being like, you know what? We're gonna make you wait for things. We're gonna make I wonder how much they got to a point where they were just like, you know what, everybody? Bran wins. Like, screw it. I mean, maybe. It's their choice. Everybody has an idea of how they want it to be, but they don't get to choose, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So do we take
so
Daenerys off the...
we take
that was our
Daenerys
only
off.
death in this episode, right?
I think
I think so.
Wow. For a season full of death.
Well, I mean, Alice
Apparently Alice Karstark.
When did Alice Karstark die?
I think she might have died in the.
In the Weirwood?
Yeah, it must have
Yeah.
been, because
I
there
mean,
was nobody else left.
she was in there,
left,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so
Who
let's
put a
say
heart under Robin Aaron?
I did.
You,
Robin
and
Aaron.
that paid off.
I
Yeah.
know.
We had
I had no idea.
We
You
had
knew he was
prophecy
gonna
that
long
was right.
I had no idea he was gonna long bottom.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm still afraid, but I'm doing it. Okay, so let's talk about how do we want to do this? Do we want to announce the winner right away?
Well, let's work our way up from the bottom. I
All right.
think.
So Wendy, is this how you do it? Wait, go from the bottom.
From the
It's-
bottom
it's-
up. No, from the bottom.
Oh, the bottom
of the
up.
draft.
Okay, so in last
Yeah.
place in our draft is Trevor Martin.
Thank you.
Gritted Barrett.
Thank you,
So
Jon Snow.
Trevor, 825 points. A very good score.
Especially if you only had 4 characters on
We
last
didn't
step.
see Hot
Yeah.
Pie.
We didn't see Hot Pie
Or
at all.
Gilly, we
Who
should have seen
misses
Gilly.
Hot Pie? Is anyone
I
still
did.
watching out there? I miss Hot Pie.
I mean, Hot Pie wasn't.
And there was a
fun.
perfect, you know what, it would have been a perfect moment for the Hound and Arya to stop at Hot Pies and talk
Yeah,
about
have a hot
revenge.
pie.
Get a bite to eat on the way
Yeah,
down.
have a hot pie.
Talk a little bit of brownie butter, and then, and then head down, and then, then she can back out.
Or if at the small council table, Hot Pie could have walked out with.
They need a cook.
Yeah.
Someone's got to cater that
Someone's
joint.
got to make some dialogue. You can make ravens now.
I like. I mean, everyone's talking about the replacement for Game of Thrones being Deadwood, even though it's been over for 15 years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when Sam Swearingen always brought peaches to the table.
Yeah,
So it'd be nice if like hot pies were always at the meeting.
Yeah, man. You need a snack. It's gonna be boring meeting.
That's a meal.
That's right. A hot
There
pie's
was
a
no
meal.
wine.
Yeah.
It's heavy. It's
I
a
mean,
little heavy for
depends.
me.
Depends.
Yeah, it was a very sober
It
table.
was
No
very
wine.
strange how sober the table was.
That is strange. Tyrion's
No drinks.
lost the
Given
wine.
Tyrion and Bronn being at the table.
Yeah, it is a better way to run a kingdom.
I suppose. We say with
Yeah.
empty wine glasses. Okay, in next to last place is a team has no name. Now you guys
What?
shut up.
I thought we did better. than that.
Which is pretty amazing considering you were in like deep dead last place.
You were in last place and now you have 910 points.
We lost some points since morning.
Yeah.
I thought we crept up to 4th.
910 points.
That's
guys.
okay.
That's a meteoric.
Well, that was all-
That's like doubling your point.
All we needed
Yeah.
was one more. We needed Mira to
needed,
show up and say a joke, and
Yeah,
it would have been.
yeah.
We needed
Because-
a yard.
Because you
yeah.
got promotion. Well, not,
Yeah.
she didn't get it this time, but definitely promotion.
All promotion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge promotion.
4
you got
promotions.
200 points.
Yeah, everybody got a promotion.
Yeah.
almost.
You know, Arya should have said goodbye to Gendry the right
They
way.
should have I would have liked that because that would have mean I might have won. If
Yeah.
They,
Oh,
had,
yeah.
if they had gotten freaky.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Freaky.
in next place ascending is Matt Campagna.
Which I gotta say, considering half of my characters never showed up this season, I'm amazed I did well at all this episode.
Yeah.
Bronn and Brienne both got big promotions.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bronn and Brienne did well for you. This guy got points for living.
Yeah, because we
This
didn't see
guy-
them die.
I'm curious, what's
Because
the
we didn't see them die on screen. In
Yeah.
fact, I don't know that we saw Fergus on screen at all.
Who
was?
Why was he even available for draft?
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's just a cartoon character.
Sadly, I came close again. Last season I was in second place.
Yeah.
This season I'm in third place.
Mm.
Sad. Heat of the Mormont is my team, and I finish with 950 points.
It's a pretty tight game.
So
It
last,
was.
yeah, so Arya and these two got me tons of wit points last night. I thought Arya might kill another person or a dragon. I
She had
was
an
like,
oddly
hoping-
bloodless last
She
two
did,
episodes.
yeah. But, and this guy, what a disappointment, Robert Glover, staying in Deepwood Lot,
Come on, buddy.
not
What a
delivering.
tool.
So the space between first and second place is so tight. In fact, earlier this morning, they
It was
were
a tie.
tied, and then
Mm.
things changed this afternoon.
Mm.
So, in second place,
We should check it
for
out.
now, because it
Double
might
check.
change,
Double check.
in second place with 980 points is Wendy with Jorah Winter Baby. 980
Wow.
points. You know,
Very nice.
If Brienne only wore
You
it a
know?
couple times.
leaving in first place, that's right, Christopher Bond with a 985 points.
Woo,
Wow.
that's one win away.
5 points.
Now,
in.
what's
Now,
amazing is you did that
last
with
year.
only really 2 characters doing much of anything. This guy.
Yeah, Grey Worm and
Yeah.
Edmure Tully. Wow.
Okay. No, and
Well,
Daenerys.
and there.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot
Yeah.
she was gonna.
Yeah.
She did.
Now, here's a question I think we need to put to our council of lords and ladies here.
Okay.
There's a particular point you get for taking the Iron Throne.
Yeah.
There's a point you get for an upgrade, a promotion, but you get more points if you actually become the queen or the king.
Yeah.
And there are now 2 kings or queens in the 7 kingdoms.
Yeah, what happened
So
points
the
with
question,
Sansa?
I think, is Sansa got 20 points?
She got 25 for a promotion.
Yeah.
But not
She's
the
a
30 for being a queen.
Right.
So the question
Contentious.
becomes,
I think it's almost
do
better
we
if
think, yeah, do we think that we want to override Fantasizer and make a tie?
That was Wendy the
I
champion.
completely disagree. We live and die by what they put on Fantasizer. You could argue
Hashtag not my
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah.
how much time it
Yeah.
did she eat the food? Did she touch
It's
the
true,
food?
yeah.
Is that
Was that funny?
Quite honestly,
Yeah.
Daenerys Targaryen took the Iron Throne. She won the battle. She stood in front of her thing.
She
Said,
did.
"I'm
She didn't
queen."
though.
She did.
Hey,
I thought you were
I'm
supposed
saying,
to
but if
say-
Fantasizer said
wrote,
it, yeah.
she took it,
Yeah.
and then Grey Worm took
Yeah,
it, and then Bran took it,
Mm.
and there's 600 points doled out, then that's just
Yeah.
a league. So
You're
you live
right.
and die by
You're
that,
right.
unfortunately.
You're right.
And it
I
could
agree.
change again today.
Yeah.
But as of right now,
Long,
get that belt out, baby, because there's a chance.
long may he reign. Long may he reign.
Queen of the
Long
North.
may he reign.
Till later this
Long
evening
may.
when another one comes.
Now, Amanda says, I disagree. I have no idea what she's disagreeing with. I'm going to say she's disagreeing with you.
But look at this, tight game.
Very tight.
Yeah,
Very.
really good. Really hard one to predict off the top, because I think we all went in with various ideas of what the season will be, and we certainly all got surprised
You
by
guys thought
something.
Bran was going to get a lot more sex points.
Yeah, we did. We thought, I thought him and Mira were finally gonna.
Hook it
I
on.
thought we were gonna get magic points every episode. I
Yeah.
did not think he was gonna get the throne.
I didn't
Like, I
either.
was shocked.
Yeah, surprise.
Warging dragons, killing night kings.
And I gotta say, all of my points really came in one episode.
That's right, yeah.
When they decided to give Danny a ton of points
Yeah,
for building up
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
All my other guys did not do.
Yeah, they were
I
high
had
scorers.
Cersei was my second pick, didn't do much.
Yeah.
And Viserion only got me that 50 for that one fight. People
Yeah,
didn't
this
get
guy,
very
you did well by this
Ray
guy.
did okay.
Yeah.
He lasted a while.
But really, it mostly came on Danny's shoulders
Yeah.
with that one episode.
Yeah, between last episode and this episode, because
I was in last
you were in last
place.
place.
Yeah.
It's quite a meteoric rise there.
But that happened last year too.
That's
I
right.
went from last to second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we tied for
For
second
second,
last
that's
year.
right.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
Wendy
just a
won,
yearly
and I
thing.
won,
Yeah,
and now
it's
we
the
tied for first.
Three kind of.
Sorry.
It's the same thing.
Sorry.
She ended it as a queen.
Sorry.
But then, I mean, did Euron Greyjoy become a king
But
when
he
he got
wasn't-
that bramble?
No, because
It
it
wasn't
wasn't an
recognized.
independent
Yeah,
nation.
it wasn't recognized.
Listen, there's validity to what you're saying. I think because the points changed, there must have been a kerfuffle at Fantasizer about this.
HQ.
So yeah, so
HQ.
that happened last year too, where things got kind of toggled around. But I feel like they made it because she created her own. It's like a separate thing, I guess.
There's no Iron
Yeah.
Throne though. I think neither.
There is no taking of the Iron Throne,
And
but
what
they do
was
become
Sansa
kings.
transcended the Iron Throne.
But it wasn't-
So more
that-
points.
Hmm?
The thing is that it wasn't about the actual throne. It's about who is running.
The protector of the realm.
Who's the protector? Yeah, who's running the 6 now kingdoms, I guess.
She got a 6.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like Bran should get like 6/7 of the Iron Throne points.
Yeah.
Because he is.
Oh my God.
He's like presiding over the crumbling of the 7 kingdoms.
Take it up with HR. Oh, yeah. Come on.
It's like Queen Elizabeth. That woman has just watched the entire kingdom fall apart, and we're like, yay, Queen Elizabeth. No, you just all fall apart.
Who's saying yay, Queen Elizabeth?
I don't know.
All these fireworks folks?
Yeah.
Victoria.
Yeah, there's Victoria.
That's
Queen
Victoria.
this, Queen that,
Yeah.
first or second of her name.
Well, I will say this. Does anyone have anything that they're excited to watch next, or is everyone? Is there a
His
whole
Dark
other-
Materials.
His
I
Dark
am
Materials
in-
looks good,
I am
yeah.
into the way that show looks,
Yeah.
because I remember reading, I think I did audiobooks, one way or another, I got through the His Dark Materials series, and it's cool, and then that Daniel Craig movie sucked, so it was called The Golden Compass.
Yeah.
But I feel like HBO might, give it some love.
Maybe.
I'm into that
Yeah.
idea.
The Deadwood movie.
The Deadwood
Oh,
movie
yeah.
looks great. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll say my next fantasizer is The Bachelorette, so I'm.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
in the middle of RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah, Drag
one
Race.
right
Oh,
now.
Yeah,
that would be
fantasizer.
great.
It's
pretty good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know yet what it'll be. I hope there's another. You know.
They do it
Maybe read a book or
They do it
something.
Westworld.
But you guys are still
I'm
watching
not-
Read a book.
Yeah.
Wait for it to turn into an HBO show.
I might read a book or something.
I'm excited for Disney Plus and The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
The same
Yeah,
size and
yeah.
scope of.
The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, Disney Plus is gonna have some interesting options. Yeah. Well, yeah, David.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Nothing.
Other
This is
stuff,
fun.
right?
Yeah, thanks.
This was fun.
Thanks everybody.
Yeah.
For having such a fun
It's
time.
not even about the show, is it?
No.
No, it's about the
The
friendship
thing.
along the way.
The time.
You know, you asked about the show, if we're gonna be, how you feel, like, yeah, I'm a little bummed that I won't have people coming over every.
I know.
Sunday rainy nachos.
Yeah, right. We do
It's
love
delicious.
queso.
Those nachos are pretty good.
We'll find a new show.
We'll find a new
I believe
show.
in us.
Yeah.
RuPaul's Drag Race.
I mean, I will say, like, as frustrating as sometimes the fandom and the kind of extreme reactions were, there is something really amazing about watching a show every week that so many people are watching and are so invested in, that they love or they hate or what, like that. It really is. You know, I think that part about the storytelling, as kind of, you know, cheesy as that was for a bunch of writers to be like, what really matters is stories.
Yeah.
I did find
it's
it
very
kind-
Shyamalan,
Yeah,
I gotta say.
but I did find it moving. I do think that stories have a massive impact on our world. It's all about that. So to be able to gather and talk about it and enjoy and argue about stories and about who should be in power and who shouldn't, and that's really such a privilege that we get, right?
And what an accomplishment this show is.
Yeah.
Like, it landed in such a cool place, it went on such a great journey, and as people who like to write stories and make stuff, it's like a very inspiring pile of work
Yeah.
that all of these craftspeople put into this, and it's marvelous.
What I'm hoping is now, like, as a person who loves deep fantasy, and I want a fantasy show where the foundation of it is women and people of color, and like where that isn't something that, you know, they start to try and rectify as they go on. I really want
Maybe
that.
a little bit less rapey.
A little less rapey would be
Yeah.
good. I mean, there are so many great sci-fi and fantasy book series written by women, so I'm looking forward to this hopefully inspiring a ton of other creators to make more grand, you know, shows like this that have this kind of depth and scope. That will be great. And maybe HBO can pay for them all.
Yeah, the studios have the courage to do it, or
Yeah,
the-
like here's
the will to do
hoping.
it.
With the
Yeah.
gobs of money they made off of this show,
Yeah,
they can
yeah.
maybe
I mean, the prequel is being the one that's being.
the first prequel that's like
Yeah.
the furthest along
Yeah.
has
A female showrunner.
so that's
So yeah,
What's that one?
I think it's about the Valyrian. I think it's about Valyria. I don't know 100%.
yeah, it's like a deep prequel, like so early
Yeah.
you couldn't possibly find a character that would make it to here other than maybe a three-eyed raven.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's a cool place to play, kind of like with the prequel series they're doing for Lord of the Rings.
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
make it about, like, young, hot Sauron, where no one's
Oh my
going
God.
to...
Is he hot?
Let's pitch that title, please.
Young
Hot Sauron.
The series.
It's like,
Yeah.
Starring Neville Longbottom.
That's
Yeah.
And Robin Aaron.
Robin Aaron. Yeah.
Ship those two.
Blow up, indeed.
Yes.
Gendry.
And Pot.
And Pod.
Yeah, it's just a sausage fest.
So four dudes.
Four dudes.
Four white dudes.
Fix
Let's
it.
make that show.
Problem solved.
Something we've never seen before.
Because we can always
Breaking
tell.
ground.
Because we can always tell the difference between Gendry and Pod.
Yeah, right.
That's easy.
They're the same person.
Same
Oh
guy.
my God, I'm
Not
not having
sure.
this argument yet.
Kirsty would love to see a prequel on Blood and Fire, the history of dragons and the Targaryen race, etc.
Oh.
Well, I mean, I think Valyria will play with that sort of Targaryen area.
I
The
just hope it
Targaryen.
has, like the Targaryen, yeah. I hope it has mysticism in it. I love mysticism, and I love when it's in fantasy.
Yeah,
so
I want
hope
to see
that
the
it-
Lord of Light play out with the old and the new
And the old
gods.
gods and
There's
the
so
new.
much.
I don't know
going
about
there.
the faceless men.
Yeah, I think there was
yeah.
they were floating around some kind of prequel or show about.
And George R. R.
Lord
Martin
Light.
said the only spin-off he would want to see would be Arya's Adventures.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
what I
that's
was
the only one
Yeah.
I care about.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Thank to everyone who has joined us. If you've joined us once, if you've joined us throughout, it's really been fun to hear what you have to think and to have these conversations. It's a great privilege to also be able to live stream and have you part of the conversation, because you get to be a part of this thing we get to do, and we get to be a part of, you maybe decompressing after an episode, hopefully.
Yeah, it's a nice come down for us
Yeah.
to like talk to each other and yell at each other about stuff, and hopefully it is for you as well.
Yeah, and we do other shows. We do Star Trek shows and other stuff on Your Geek News. So
Yeah, Your Geek
that's
News will
jam.
have some chats about the Picard show when that
Yeah.
comes out. But yeah, we'll see what else we really love that comes out over the summer, and maybe we'll do another one of these. Otherwise, it might be until Picard and more Star Trek comes along. But one way or another, we will talk about some fun geeky stuff.
Yeah. So thanks everyone.
So
Cheers.
to the old gods and the new.
And now the watch has
ended.
ended. Yeah.
Ended.
Ended. With no
Ended.
wine.
Queen of the North.
Oh, well.
Queen of the
Oh.
Queen of
She's
the
the
North.
queen.
Wendy's never gonna let this
Of
go.
the North.
Just the north.
Thrones, yeah. Couch of Thrones, yeah.